we're live, Mr. Wade. Uh, Good night, Belizeans at home and abroad. My name is Leonard Brackett. Um, we're watching the 223rd show from the Belizean Affairs. Belizean Affairs show number 223. Thanks, Mr. Wade. We have gotten
Thank
here
you.
in a hurry.
Thank you.
Thanks to our supporters as well, those who listen to us when the program is live, and those who come in and listen to us at their own convenience. We do want to express our gratitude for listeners taking their valuable and important time to listen to what we have to say, and hopefully, what we have to say may make a difference in how they perceive what's going on around them, with them, and about their affairs as Belizeans, both from home and abroad.
Amen.
We also have, beside myself tonight, we have Mr. Roody Wade, who is the chairman for the Wednesday night program. And I don't see yet our next panelist, Mr. Gregory Brackett, who is the chairman for the Monday program. But we're about to kick off the show, and I would like to ask Mr. Wade to do a reading for me as soon as I finish a short prayer. And we're off and running. I'll just bow my head and say the prayer. Divine loving Father, once again we come before thy presence, asking that thou would continue to be merciful unto us all. Thou who art the creator of heaven and earth, and who are our own creator, we pray that thou mayest continue to bless us, guide us, strengthen us, protect us, give us wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and endurance, perseverance, and strength, as well as fortitude, loving Father, so that we may be able to present a valuable and important program to our Belizeans at home and abroad, and that at the end of this program, they may have gotten some public benefit from this effort. We pray that God may continue to bless our country of Belize, its people and leadership, that God may continue to bless this country of the United States, its people and leadership, and that God may continue to have mercy upon those people who are in the vicinity of wars and all kind of mayhem and killing and slaughtering of innocent people, that God would give them some reprieve. We pray that God may continue to bless those who have need of food, clothes, and shelter. And when thou comest, we pray that thou mayest grant us the privilege to be a part of thy kingdom for the rest of his mercies in Jesus' name. Amen. I
And
yield to you, Mr. Wade, for reading, sir.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always good to be in your company. It's a blessing.
Same here,
Blessing
Mr.
to be able to sit here as, thank the Almighty for this day because a lot of us did not see this day. And always truth that tomorrow is promised to no one. So we give thanks and praise. And again, thank you for that warm prayer there, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome,
I'll
sir.
do a reading, Mr. Chairman, from Luke, see, chapter 15, 1 to 10. It reads, Now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to hear him. And the Pharisees and the scribes grumbled, saying, This man receives sinners and eat with them. So he told them this parable. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he has lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the open country and go after the one that is lost until he finds it. And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and his neighbors, saying to them, rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost. Just so I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than
Amen.
over 99 righteous person who needs no repentance.
Amen.
Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweep the house and seek diligently until she finds it? And when she has found it, she calls together her friends and neighbors, saying, rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I had lost. Just so I tell you, there is joy before the angels of God over one sinner who repents.
Amen.
That's my reading from Luke chapter 15, 1 to 10. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. I was just in the middle of um, doing
I
a little bit of
like to
explaining
little
real quick.
sober reminder, if you permit me,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Please.
My people, you know, again, a little sober reminder, the hurricane season, again, it's not over yet. So please take heed. Any number can play. Protect yourself always. And a little sober reminder about all these traffic accidents. Again, not too long ago, about an hour ago, horrific traffic accident just happened, right, on between mile 30 and 39 and 40.
Hmm.
So again, please be mindful on the highways because our highways are so deplorable. Bad, stinking highways. Potholes all over. Sometimes there is no sign at one of those bumps, what they call ramps.
Silent
No
lamps.
signs. Just imagine a tourist that does not live in this country
Hmm.
traveling on the highway where he expect to see a sign at these bumps and there is no sign. Just imagine what happens. Okay? So that's to show you the attitude of our leaders. I don't give a hoot attitude, right? The band-aid fixes, the quick fixes just to make a little money. That's just to show you. The roads and highways and streets needs proper signage. And in the towns and villages, the streets needs to have names, which is lacking. And they call themselves leaders. Sad. And I take it for granted that when they are doing these projects, all these things was charged for, but at the end of the day, do not get completed. Horrifics all the time. 2024, no better. But you see them go to the house every minute for money to fix the road because they are in deplorable condition. Every 3 months, that man ministry gets money to fix roads. And he is Mr. Right. So I guess at the end of his term, he will come and say, this is the amount of taxpayers' dollars that I have gotten to fix the roads, and this is what I did with it, item by item. I hope he does that, and like all the rest of them. But I guess right now, they are waiting for that Christmas cheers, my people. So look around in your neighborhoods. Your representative will get Christmas cheers. So ask them for a little ham and turkey. Because that's what it's for. Not to put in their bank accounts or squander and without no accountability as usual.
Thank
So,
you very
Mr.
much.
Chairman,
Oh, sorry.
go right ahead. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade, for such a lucid and timely uh, heads up to our people. I hope people don't take for granted what you're saying, because
Truth.
what you're saying is based on where we are, where we came from, and how we
Where we
got
at?
where we are. So I'd like to launch tonight's program dealing with the Belize Constitution to start with, and then I'll go into some other legal and constitutional matters, both from the Belize Constitution and relating to the Constitution of the United Democratic Party per se. I'll take the pleasure and the opportunity to go to Section 13 of the Constitution of Belize, and it's highlighted by the category of protection of freedom of assembly and association. Protection of freedom of assembly and association. In other words, we are free to assemble, we are free to join different associations or different groups or different, whatever is it that pleases our hearts. The Constitution leaves that to us to determine how we want to exercise those inalienable rights. I'll read Section 13, subsection 1, which reads as follows: except with his or her own consent, a person, whether male or female, shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association. That is to say, his rights to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and particularly to form or, or belong to trade unions or other association for the protection of his interests, or to form or belong to political parties or other political association. So, the Constitution of Belize, from which I read just now, does not always or repetitively or too often relates and or deals with matters pertaining to political association. The Constitution leaves that prerogative largely at the behest and at the consent of the individuals who are authorized by our Constitution to exercise those rights of freedom of association and freedom of assembly that no government entity personnel has the power, the authority, or the right except with the consent of the individuals. In other words, if the government wanted to have control over individuals and their ability to associate with others of like-mindedness, then the government would have to come, not with an SOE, by the way, where they violate people's freedom and rights of association, but they would have to come with a plebiscite, with a referenda, to ask the people to yield that right to the prerogative and the disposition of the government through policies of state. And those policies of state then would not be enforced or discriminate or be discriminatory to an individual or only a group of individuals. Those policies of state, in order for it to be constitutionally valid, must cover the whole country and everyone in the country, because as Section 6 says, we're all equal under the law. And as we're told also that nobody should be discriminated against. And if anybody feels aggrieved or think that their rights would be violated, they have a right under Section 20 of our Constitution to seek judicial review. But I'll go back to the essence of and the purpose for which I brought that particular Section 13 reading. And for emphasis, I'll just like to read it again, because I'm going to refer, just a second, I'm going to refer to the wordings of this Section 13, subsection 1 of the Belize Constitution, which reads again as follows: except with his or her own consent, a person shall not be hindered in the enjoyment of his freedom of assembly and association. That is to say, his rights to assemble freely and associate with other persons, and in particular to form or belong to trade unions or other associations or organizations for the protection of his interests, or to form or belong to a political parties or other political association. The Constitution clearly leaves in the hands of the people of Belize, as individuals and or as a group, as an association, as a political party, the rights and the authority to belong to any such group, and for those groups to have their own bylaws, constitution, and other management tools. It is not for the government to enter into no private association or any private groups, or for that matter of fact, to enter into the domain of political affairs, as stated clearly in the last part of this particular section 13, subsection 1. That's your inalienable right. That's your constitutionally imbued and empowered right. That's your God-given prerogative. And no one should trespass on those. As a matter of fact, it keeps those matters silent and separate out of the separation of powers doctrine, where even the judiciary, as part of the separation of powers entity, where we have the judiciary, the legislature or legislative, and we have the administrative or executive. We also have the people, and the people are allowed to have unto themselves certain powers and authority reserved that only the people can give the government the power or authority and a specific lawmaking criteria that come from a plebiscite, not from a cabal of government officials getting together and deciding that, well, they're going to make this law to trample the constitutional rights of these individuals, and to tell their party or their organization who can belong to it, how they can structure it, what funding they can get, or how to finance it, and all these other prerogatives. So the Constitution leaves that to the behest of the people. So when an organization is built up, as in this case, for example, a political party, a mass party, by the way, in fact, even small political parties or small entities create their own bylaws, which they're entitled to, and or their own constitution. So the Constitution of the United Democratic Party is governed by the rules and regulations developed by that association or by that political entity. And it is not for the government and or even the judiciary to tell the highest power of a political party, that is to say, its biannual conference delegates, what decisions to make, or what decisions is proper or not proper, or to tell that delegation that they can only make certain decisions, or to limit the decision power of those delegations. Because just as how the Constitution of Belize is the maximum power of Belize or of the country, the Constitution of the United Democratic Party, as well as that of the People's United Party, and any others, is the maximum law that governs that entity or that association. And it is not for the government and or the judiciary to tamper or attempt to hand and pull the constitution or the bylaws of any of those organizations or parties. So, no judge is authorized to tell a biannual conference when it sits and is duly constituted and has a quorum. No judge can tell that biannual conference that the decision they made is incorrect, because that power is left and vested solely and wholly in that organizational structure and the constitution that binds it together. Far from telling the biennial conference that they cannot discipline their own rogue officers or to remove them from office or to alter any of the decisions that biennial conference makes. So long as that biennial conference is not transgressing the constitution of the country in terms of carrying on with illegal activities, for which then the state will have to react or discipline that organization. But for a judge to be put in a situation where that judge is going to determine whether or not the party convention delegates have a right to make any decisions that they're making in regards to disciplining their rogue leaders and chairman and others. It is not for a judge to enter into. So for all intents and purposes, the right place for a judge to have decided to make a decision sometime in the future, when they hear what is alleged to be a full case hearing, the judge should stipulate and say that the judge has no standing in regards to the political affairs of parties. And the judge should follow what the Constitution requires of any judge who is using the maximum power of the land, the supreme law of the land, the Constitution of Belize, as a guide, as I just read to you from Section 13. And therefore, because under Section 13, the judiciary would not have any justification or rights to dictate to a political party or to change or amend the constitution of a political party or to tell that political party who is to decide and how that decision is to be made in regards to whether or not they want to sack their political leaders and or they want to have whatever political decision they make within their organizational structure. That is for the party to resolve through its constitutional processes, and not for a Constitution of Belize judge to impose itself in a circumstance where the judge should have no standing. Because, as I read, it says, let me say it again, it is not my words I'm reading here or I'm stipulating here. It is the law of the land, the highest authority in our land. Except with his own or her own consent. So if the leadership of that party decides that they don't want to have a judge meddling in their political affairs, that judge should state the obvious and the appropriate statement. They have no jurisdiction and no standings themselves to adjudicate the issues unless those issues come under the laws of the land in terms of criminal conduct or criminal activity. So Mr. Shine and his lawyer and other colleagues took to the court a trumped up, bogus bunch of allegations, lied to the judge when they knew at that very point in time when they had this judge made that ruling that the judge should have been able to know that Mr. Shine was already defrocked or sacked from the position he held previously and had no authority or no rights to claim that he was still the leader of the party. Under which then this judge decided to give them an emergency reprieve because of the malicious and devious claim. He claimed a position that he no more had any rights to exercise power over and or control. And as a result, the judge bought into it because obviously the judge apparently do not understand the difference between a constitutional officer and a political officer. As particularly to say the difference between a member of the House who by virtue of having the majority parliamentarians voting with him to keep him as leader of the opposition in parliament, as not being one and the same as the leader of the party. To conflate that and to say, well, because he's the leader of the opposition in the House, that he has the right to exercise the prerogatives and the powers of the leader of the party, which at the time that this decision was made was not vested in Mr. Barrow or any of his other cronies, but was actually vested as of October 20th, according to the majority of the members of the legitimately certified members of the UDP biannual conference. They are the powers who give the authority to the officers of the United Democratic Party, and to whom those officers are entrusted with carrying out the wishes and the decisions of that highest authority of the party. Any other subordinate officer of that group does not have the power to trump the decisions of that biannual conference. And that biannual conference, as per the Constitution of the United Democratic Party, has the power to change its mind on a dime on any particular issue, so long as they so long as they have a quorum. They can get together and have a meeting with or without the acquiescence of the chairman who is attempting to block them from being able to have that meeting, because he was claiming that he has such powers as to not being able to certify that biannual conference or to allow them to exercise their own power. What he was doing, I'm speaking about Mr. Perfit now, was actually acting as a rogue officer of the party. Contrary to good order and good discipline, he was trying to block that conference from doing what they told him they wanted to do. And he had no such power. There's no part of the UEP constitution that says that he can stop them from doing that. The authority says that he is supposed to facilitate them to get it done. And as a rogue operator, he was trying to stop them from getting it done. So they convened by virtue of having a quorum. They convened their own meeting and made their decisions, or the decisions that they were empowered to make. So no judge can come behind them and say that they were not authorized to make those decisions, and or that what the decisions that they made was flawed or should have been given permission by a rogue operator. And them doing it without that rogue operator's acquiescence, then according to what the rogue operator and being Mr. Perfit and his client, Mr. Shine Barrow, and his lawyer going to the court and misrepresenting the facts was actually a matter of contempt of court. Because at that point when they submitted that information, they knew they were submitting bogus information. But on top of that bogus information, they made an incorrect plea to the judge. And the judge was predisposed, well, I wouldn't say predisposed, let me take that back, that's different. The judge was disposed, as per the judge's ruling, to grant them that plea. When the judge was ignorant of the fact that that plea should not be granted to somebody who doesn't have the authority vested in them in the first place to demand that the judge grant them that plea. The judge should have made it clear to himself before making a bogus ruling or error in judgment. That judge should have appraised himself to know enough that that gentleman and his lawyers that came before him was committing contempt of court and should have been sent to jail for attempting such. But the judge was in no position to decide that. So he left that to be decided when the whole case would be heard. But that whole case will not be heard until probably after the election. And if that becomes the case, then that judge would have facilitated a mobster, a gangster, a thug, and his entourage to bamboozle the judge and get away with depriving the rightful powers of the United Democratic Party from carrying on its business, its association. And that judge was outside of his workers when he made that ruling. He's a judge and he's supposed to make a ruling, but only as far as he is appraised of the facts on which he is making a ruling. He just can't arbitrarily and capriciously or willy-nilly make a ruling just to make a ruling's sake, or because a request was made to him to make a ruling. He has to first be judicious and have a judicial temperament to be able to say in his own rights to whoever comes before him, as in this case, Mr. Barrow and his lawyers, the judge should have been able to tell them, you're asking for an emergency declaration. I don't know enough to be able to award you that declaration, because he was only hearing one side of the story. That judge should have given the other plaintiff enough time to answer the charge. That is what is required according to our Constitution. At some point, I'll read that part for you as well. What the Constitution says about judges giving time for people who go before them to be judged. This is a standard practice that time is given. That's why you have many times over and over you hear that cases are postponed, or that they have a time for a case, and when the case comes up, something happens that the judge decides, okay, well, they're going to put it out for another date. It happens all the time. That judge was within his right to make such declaration and refused to, because the judge was presented with some lies, conflation, and outright fabrication, and he did not know the difference. But yet he exercised the power vested in him to make a ruling. How can a judge claim to be making a ruling judiciously without understanding or knowing the facts? So anyhow, for right now, I see our next colleague and panelist, Mr. Gregory Brackett in the back, has joined us formally, and I just want to defer to him to at least introduce himself, and if he had a comment, to make one, or I'll pass the comment to Mr. Wade. But just out of committee and decency, I would like to ask Mr. Brackett to, I'll yield to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good night to the Belizean people at home and abroad. I thank you for tuning in to this 223rd episode of Belizean Affair. Hoping you all have a wonderful and great Thanksgiving. I return the floor to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Wade, I'd like to defer to you for a few minutes. You don't have to be long, sir, because I'm going to be ranting on this a little bit more, and I understand and I know your position in regards to this particular issue, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot or belabor. I'll just try to
Thank you.
give you an opportunity to weigh in
Yes, thank you.
as best you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And
You're welcome,
Greg,
sir.
it's always a pleasure to sit in your company, my brother. Thank you. And I I have said before, because this is a item that we had talked about before. Leonard, you had explained the constitution of the United Democratic Party, the rules and regulation they abides on, and explained that it's two separate things and has nothing to do with the constitution of Belize.
Yes, sir.
So my thing is that what I'm upset about, this guy, something that they are fighting for power between he and the lady, where his UDP delegates already say that they don't want him. And his UDP delegate says that they want that lady, right? So I don't see what hard for that to be understood by this guy. But he has ulterior motives, right?
Mm-hmm.
He don't want to relinquish the sweetness he's getting because that leadership that he has carry a big weight. Leader of the position. He could get to go wherever he wants to go in this around the world using his position. So if he give up that position, that freeness will be swept from under his feet. So he does not want that. I don't know, he probably still in the US somewhere with P. Diddy somewhere. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. He could do whatever he so desires. But I could care less. What I upset about, like I say, is that he is going to use our court system to take his ranting in front of a judge when that judge should have been taking care of the affairs of other cases that need to be heard, but facilitated this guy. To me, I'm very upset as a taxpayer, a born Belizean, and a voter. I'm upset about that. That's only me, right? And he not done there because he will never give up power until the judge tell him you no longer have that power. That's the mentality he has, right? And another thing that upsets me in my nation is all these foreign judge that the UDP brings, the PUP brings. Why? To do what? Do they know the constitution of our land that well? Better than a born Belizean judge? Keeps happening. Why do they do that? You have this administration, the way they brings in people in their party and in parliament. Our constitution clearly states anyone born to a country that does not respect the sovereignty and independence of Belize should not be allowed or should not be given a Belize citizenship or should not be allowed to contest in parliament. But what we have, does the foreign judge knows that?
No.
So let's hold the PUP to task. Let's hold the UDP to task for having these people representing us in parliament or as a representative of the people, Belizean people. That upsets me. When you have born Belizean, birth Belizean, who has dual citizenship and has a right to have a dual citizenship. I'm not talking people that is born in another country, and I'm talking born Belizean that carries a Belizean birth paper. They want to disenfranchise these people. Why? They have done it before, but they can continue to do it because they will be held accountable on the highest court of the land. So my thing is, these judges that come from other part of the world to run the affairs of this country, that should not happen, right? Born Belizean should hold that title and hold that office because he understands and knows the country and live it, the constitution of this country,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So, and I could go on and go on, but what I'm saying is that, what you were talking about there, Mr. Chairman, this guy here, to close it off, he will not give up power. The judge, he will go back in front of a judge again, right? And I'm just curious to see on the ballot on the next election whose name is going to be leader of the opposition that will be on the ballot box. I'm just curious about that. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, sir.
And they're
Yeah.
doing a very disservice to this country and people and taxpayers, this so-called opposition party in this country. A disservice. They need to return all the money they are getting and had gotten back to the Belizean taxpayers. That's what I got to say on that. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
In regards to the question that you asked just now, sir, who is going to be the leader of the opposition? That is clearly stipulated in our constitution as well. That is to say, whoever can command the majority of the opposition members of parliament has the right and the authority vested constitutionally in that person if they go to the governor general to get the governor general's ascension for them then to be classified as the leader of the opposition. That is not necessarily determined by which party, whether UDP number one or UDP number three or UDP number four or UDP number five have 1, 2, 10, or 20 delegates each or whatever. The bottom line is that there's a prescribed process, procedure, and protocol for that determination to be made, Mr. Wade, in regards to your question. So Tracy will not decide that. She can only decide that she will be the leader of the party. Shine cannot decide that he will be the leader of the party because that's the authority vested in the biennial conference delegates. And they have already spoken to that matter, which is, like I said, the judge cannot go and overthrow that or overturn that decision or tell them that they had no power vested in them because then that judge will be totally beside. Then I'll have to come down on that particular judge who will make any such dastardly decision to explain that maybe they have an ulterior motive other than just following the Constitution as is clearly outlined. Yes, you have different case laws for different cases all over the world, and we subscribe to many of those. But at the end of the day, the bottom line is the Belize Constitution should be where any of our judges that rule on our cases should look first for guidance. And if they need additional support in providing that guidance, then they are given the opportunity to look at what you call stare decisis case law in cases where matters has been ruled throughout the whole system from top to bottom and has been concluded on. And those stare decisis cases then become the basis on which other cases are measured or are judged. But you cannot have a judge making an emergency ruling on a matter that the judge is not fully informed. That is my point of contention as regards to what the judge did and how what the judge did was being able to be used by nefarious people who did not have the well-being of the party at heart but had their own personal agendas. So for all intents and purposes, what the judge did was to facilitate someone who could have paid for the justice that they wanted. They had the ability to bring a case, they brought that case maliciously at that, and secondly, barefacedly and contemptuously to the court. No proper lawyer worth their salt would do such barefaced act. Or at least I shouldn't say it like that. Let me say it like this. No lawyer worth their salt should come to any court barefacedly knowing that they're lying to the court and proceed to lie to the court. Maybe the lawyer didn't know what the hell he was doing when he went and represented and said to the judge what he had heard from somebody else or maybe from some other lawyers. But at the end of the day, he told a lie. He fabricated information that had no bearings on the facts that they stipulated. That is to say, that this man was the leader of the party and had the right and authority vested in him to ask this judge to give him back that power that was stripped from him by the leaders of the party, the real leaders of the party. But I wanted us to read a part of the Constitution in regards to one statement that you made earlier about Guatemalans not being authorized to acquire Belizean citizenship.
Mr. Chairman,
Uh,
if I may put my input at this time.
yes, sir. Please go ahead.
In
Thank you, Mr.
regards,
Wade, for your input, sir. Go ahead, Greg.
in regards to concern, first to you, Mr. Wade, the judges that are brought into Belize are judges who have studied Commonwealth Caribbean law the same way we have lawyers and judges in Belize or Belizeans as a past acting Chief Justice who have studied Commonwealth Caribbean law. It's one within the same. Now, to go to what my good cousin was speaking about, I again want to specify this. I will not go as far as to say what was presented to the judge was fabricated. I will say that judges should rule on law, and whatever is presented to them is what they will rule on. I'm saying this to say or to draw a point as to your concern because we do have a precedent in BSI versus the Attorney General and the government, in which BSI won the case and the court specifically ruled in the favor of them as to not have the government interfere into their private funding. This is why I would have referred to this case if I was the person or individual representing Ms. Fontaine. First of all, as I have mentioned on this show, Mr. Barrow did not fall under the Landlord and Tenant Act. He was not renting this property from the UDPs or from the past lady or gentleman who had taken care of that building.
Mr. Mr. Brackett, can I make a small statement just to add to what you just said? Not only was he not a renter, but he was misrepresenting his status as the rightful person to make any decision regarding that building. He had no such right, authority, status, or privilege to claim that he and his entourage was being done a disservice the longer those people kept that property under their control, which is why he needed it back because he, as the leader of the party, which was the confession that he was using to bamboozle the judge, and this was stipulated. It wasn't something that was just verbally stated. It was written and presented as part of their case. Okay? Especially as regards to the emergency part of their case. That was not a pleading that they left for the whole hearing. They used it as an emergency catch to bamboozle the judge, and the judge was not any more wiser to recognize the difference, which is why he made the error of judgment.
I, I, like I said, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Go
I
ahead. I'm
will
sorry for.
abstain from specifying that. As I was mentioning to the people at home and abroad, the government cannot intercede into private businesses or private affairs. There's a bar to that from the Constitution. And when you have a court that passed a precedent ruling in the ruling of
Mhm.
BSI against the government, and you find that same court, specifically the High Court, come back and violate that, something is totally wrong. And I'm saying this to say that
My point of contention,
they,
but I'm doing so with the mechanics and the evidence that is provided to the public. I'm talking about public domain issues, not just a personal opinion. But I'm sorry for interjecting or cutting you across. It was in the middle of
at the
me
end of the
completing a statement.
day, what I was about to say is this. We have a party called the UDP that has a constitution that sets out how the party should be run, how they should have convention, and how they can demote or they can terminate anybody from that party. That is within itself a total private entity. And the Constitution bars any court, any government from interceding in the private affairs of that private entity. May it be a life, may it be uh, basketball team or association, they have their own methods of how
They're
they
governed.
rule and certain aspects of things that occur. So my thing is this. I believe that the judge who gave that temporary injunction erred in her ruling because a judge can only rule on law, and the Constitution is a guide to law. So when a judge
So,
rules, it has to
so,
be
right?
per the Constitution.
So that judge
Exactly.
should have known the Constitution. That's my point.
And that's
They
my
come
what I'm
here
The
and they don't know
I'm
judge,
the
saying.
Constitution. They should have known the Constitution. They should have known better
the
if
judge,
they're constitutionalists and they know the laws of this country. You know, they shouldn't have
the
even entertained
judge,
that. You know,
They had no
if
standings.
they if they had appealed, they would have won. And I will tell you why. Because that judge within the ruling that she made when she was asked to determine the leader of the opposition said that that would come in a trial in January, I think the specific date of the 25th. And being a judge, you know this, you could not make a temporary injunction as
Exactly.
to the leader of the opposition. Everything that happened had to do with that date, including the termination of the use of that property through the majority of the delegates from the party who had a convention, because that is the way the party carries out its business. Period. So there is no getting around of that. As I stated, I believe, to the best of my knowledge, and with a precedent case, as in ASRBSI versus the Attorney General and the government, where the High Court made a ruling that bars the government from getting involved with private businesses, I believe they would have won an appeal. I go back to you, Mr. Chairman.
they
Thank you very
they
much,
should
Brother
have
Greg.
that judge should have
Good day,
turned
Mr. Wade.
pair of
Yes, sir.
feet and shine right back. They should have turned it. Send them back to go in their little office and settle that. But no, he was entertained. He and Perifit was entertained, right? On the taxpayers' dollars, on the taxpayers' affairs, right? They entertain them, right? Shouldn't have happened. Has nothing to do with party politics. They should have gone, that judge should have told them, you go in your little room that you don't want to give up, and no lock up in there together, and no settle that with no delegates, and don't come back to this court, right? But no, they are going to go back again, and that fool is going anyway, that guy is going to use the system again, right? And use it the taxpayers' uh, 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 time again, uses the judge's time when the judge could have been listening to another important case that's been sitting there for 7, 10 years, people in remand.
Hmm.
But no, entertain this guy, right? Who he is? Who does he think he is? Right?
Well,
That is what upsets me,
uh,
right?
Mr. Wade, I'd like to answer another question you just asked. You know, who is this guy and how come he can get the court manipulated under false pretext contemptuously to do his bidding? There's a thing called legal services that so long as you can afford to pay for it,
He has the money,
you're entitled
right?
you're entitled then to come to the court with whatever allegations you have, whether
Mr.
good,
Chairman, if I
bad, or
may,
indifferent. Go
This
ahead, sir.
goes beyond that. It goes about bastardization of our constitution and the use of executive power. Because
That's it right
for
there.
one, I can prove it right here tonight as we show and tell. The gross violation by our government of our constitution. And I need to go to the tape, Mr. Chairman.
Go
Please
ahead. Go
bear
right
with
ahead, sir.
me.
Does anyone have a question? Channel 7, Jules, please go ahead.
I know you're tired. I'm in a call. So yeah,
Not at all, Jules, not at all.
I just wanted to ask the NEMA coordinator, what's the clear direction at this time on work, being that an all clear will likely be issued by 3 p.m. and we know that it only, it was a low grade storm. So what is there any clear directive on work, and should businesses be forcibly closed, as I'm told is happening in some parts of the country by law enforcement? What is the situation at business, restaurants, etc., remaining open, and also employees being called to work? Not hearing you, Mendes.
So those advisories came out last night based on information that was available at that time. We obviously have received new information and we will be reviewing those. Those will be included in the next advisory. So we will be providing some more clearer guidance to those particular concerns that you have just raised.
Okay, but so as it stands right now, based on the directive last night, places of business should not be open.
As of the last advisory, like I said, we are reviewing with new information and we will be providing.
And for those of us on the outside, it's incomprehensible. But please explain to me, if you know, how is it that call centers are now included in essential services?
Say at this point, that is the list that exists, but we know that there need to be some attention paid to it. So at this point, I cannot comment on that until I confer. That is a decision that is made by cabinet, not a decision made for us at NEMO. And so we will be working with them to be able to provide better guidance on that.
Gentlemen and people at home and abroad, I want you to go back to this tape because BPO were classified as essential service during a national emergency where some businesses was forcefully closed. These BPO was calling in their employees and even threatening them with termination. And guess what? Being classified as an essential service, the BPOs was closed for Thanksgiving. Guess what? America was on holiday, so no calls could have made from the BPOs to America. So I want to ask the government, is the government going to pay these people that had to stay home while the BPOs was closed? Because he's the one who classified in as essential services. So I want the people at home and abroad to see what is happening here. This is a total disrespect to our constitution. To pass a SI that does not trump the Belize constitution, as I said before, policies and statutory instruments does not trump the constitution or one's constitutional rights. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Greg, for the clarification and the show and tell as regards to the dastardly conduct and misbehavior of our so-called leaders. Because they know better, they know exactly what they're doing, and these BPO people are friends of the present administration, and in particular, the Briceño cabinet and Mr. Briceño himself, he having stated such. So it's not like I'm trying to state something different than what it is purported to be by themselves, because as we say on this program, we show and tell, and we show them telling on themselves as well. So what I'm stipulating and saying here is not my own words. Of course, maybe yes, it could be said to be my own words that I'm spewing out of my body, but they were the words that came out originally out of the mouth of the Prime Minister and others in cabinet. So for that matter to have been changed and put into our emergency declarations protocols, it was done as a favor to the BPO people, to chance free local Belizean people, despite the fact that the Constitution says that it should not have been done. Nobody should have been allowed to work or get chance like that in any situation where there was a declared emergency. That because the BPO are classified illegally, I may say, as emergency services.
Mr. Chairman, I would not use the word illegally. I would use the word unconstitutionally as an
More
essential
appropriate, more
service.
appropriate, more appropriately said. Well said, sir. So,
And Mr.
so go
Chairman,
ahead,
you know,
go ahead, sir.
just
Go
as I
ahead.
said, Mr. Chairman, you know what? They're gonna pass a law, you know. They're gonna pass a law. We did talk about this and we did rumble it. They're gonna pass a law. But they will classify them as essential. They're gonna make sure these guys here, they're gonna pass a law.
They're
Mark my
beholden.
word. Go ahead, sorry about that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
no, no, correctly cited, sir, or stated, because these people are showing us who they really are. They're operating our system of governance on behalf of foreign interests. The hell with the Belizean people. We could get up here and speak to these issues 1,000 times, and it won't make a difference to these jackals and hyenas and vultures who are taking our governance powers and subordinating it to the interests of people who are their friends. How come their friendship is greater among them and those people than among us who vote them into office? Baffles me. Because they come right back again, and they will come again in the next few months to ask us for our vote. To come back again and give us another dose of the same medicine, or even worse, because it seems to me like every administration of our country, from since 1981, Independence Day, until today date, each and every one of them have done worse than the one before them. You look at the history, you look at the facts, you look at what transpired from then till now. Our country has gotten roughed up, degraded. A lot of people have gone to jail and suffer unduly under these onerous laws that these jackals they make, under the pretext that they are empowered to make laws, and whatever they make as law must be constitutionally accepted, which is bogus. If the laws that they're making is unconstitutional, it is still unconstitutional. It violates the Constitution. And some of them should actually go to jail. Then others will take caution.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, sir.
now let's look at this. In the State of the Nation speech, the Prime Minister said the country was doing well, the economy was
Best
bouncing
ever.
back or
The
has
best ever
bounced
in
back.
43 years, Greg.
So I want to ask this question. How is it then? We will have some people in the rural north and in the west who is flooded out that have not seen a Thanksgiving and will not see a Christmas, but yet you did not pass a state of emergency and you do not have Nemo out there trying to help these people with funding or any kind of aid. But yet the economy has bounced back. Taxpayers' money should have been used in the rightful way to assist these people. Then, Mr. Chairman, I want to go to a good one for the people at home and abroad to hear because unbelievable. We keep hearing the political blunder because election is coming. We heard the state of the nation speak. We heard about all these tax breaks, all these stamp duty that will be given to first-time homeowners, first-time landowners. But what is behind it that is not being said? These things cannot take effect until after you vote for them. You ask anyone around right now who is getting those tax breaks or who is getting some duty break. Nobody is getting that and will not get that until after the general election. A great
which is
political blunder. No,
coming
here is
sooner
a
rather than
great
later.
one, and I want the people to listen to this, Mr. Chairman.
42,000 persons got an increase in their minimum wage, 42,000, that's a lot of people who are making $3.30 an hour. You know what is $3.30 an hour? That's a little bit over $20 a day. How can you live with that? The cost of renting a room in this country is $100+ a week. You can't rent a house anymore. The days of renting a house for $300 or $350 are long gone. It's $650, $800 for some small houses that are inferior, unfurnished. And then you can't pay that, not on minimum wage. And then when you can't pay, you have to go find another house. And the homeowners are charging you 3 months rent. 3 months. I met a lady last week. She has to pay 3 months rent, $850 times 3, $25.50. You understand? First, last, and security. How in God's world she's going to be able to pay that on a small salary? How? So that's how they end up with the pawn shops. That's how they end up with the money lenders. And it ends up in a cycle that keeps pushing them back. Man, listen. I had to rescue a gentleman who I've known all my life.
I want to stop this tape right there because I want to answer to this gentleman. First of all, we are living in a designer system designed to keep the people that are low class in poverty. Two, the minimum wage that you are speaking about, sir, that you guys keep saying $5 is a mere sleazy $1.10. Three, the small businesses cannot survive because the panada shop and the bread shop are paying the same taxes some of these Chinamen are paying because you in power does not want to reform the taxes so everybody can pay their legal share.
Their
Three,
fair share.
you and your party is in 4 years. In 4 years, you guys couldn't find an audit general. So why talk about the rental fee and houses gone up when you and your government fail to have rental control? And again, a great political blunder. You want to speak about all this, as I said. How come we're not speaking about the people who are suffering from the flood? How come we're not speaking about it takes 2 years to build a school that was burnt by fire, but yet still all those funding are coming for education and energy, and we can go down the list. So to listen to these people that are ludicrous or insane in the brain, Mr. Chairman, I go back to you.
Thank you very much, Greg, for your insightful, clear, and numerous citations of the facts the way they are rather than the way we would like for them to be. I wish Belizeans would take the time, listen to some of these shows that we present, and some of the concerns that you have just alluded to just now, um, Greg, Mr. Brackett, as well as what Mr. Wade is always expounding, and what I sometimes dabble into. The bottom line is that these gentlemen, it's not because they don't know better or are not capable of doing better. They sit in cabinet and they conspire against the public. They make these onerous laws that trap people into the very same cycle that he is describing, that he apparently is aggrieved about. What is he doing about it in cabinet? The Prime Minister is out of tongue right now. This is the time for him to shine. Do something. Take up the pen and make a strike against the things that he's talking about. Show deliberate intent with efforts. Don't talk a good talk, and tomorrow tonight people will still go to bed hungry, and tomorrow lot and I know I got no job.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Go
The
ahead, sir.
government is the root cause of it. Why people is living in poverty. Pensioners can't receive their pension. BDF underpaid. The teachers can't get their increment, and we can go on. That is no kind of news what he's saying. The finger is pointing back at them. Who is supposed to stabilize the country? I go back to you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you very much again, Greg. You to Mr. Wade.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be
Welcome, sir.
short and thank you, Greg, for sober reminder to the people, right? And remind them that the things that we advocate for and the things that we do on Belizean affairs, the things that we shed light to, right? I've always been passionate about the way these elected leaders, these so-called elected leaders, behave to the very same people that they swear allegiance to, that they will protect and serve, do right by them, right? We see the attitude. This man is just one of them, Mr. Chairman, and Greg, that you says election is coming, Before, when that man was in opposition, all the good things he was saying, pretty much along the same line, right? He got that chance. Did he do any better?
No.
That's my thing, right? But yet, these are their action, and you know what? They will come to you again, my people. And this guy have no shame for to speak like that. Who has the country the way it is right now? The poor people, the voters, the laborers, the teachers, the policemen, the soldiers, the pensioners. That ain't got the country the way it is right now, Mr. Man. You are the cause of it. As a black man, you sit up there with your mouth shut like a stooge and could not defend your people, Mr. Man. Okay? Of all these hyenas and all of them in the aisle there on the other side and on both sides, they speak the way they speak against your people. And they do the things they do. And you shut up as a black man. I have no respect for you, Mr. Man. Right? And then you have the audacity to come to the nation and the world for them to watch you say this kind of crap when you have the power to do right by people. I started in a post after you said that thing, Mr. Man. I would like to know your bank account before you got elected, and I would like to know your bank account now because this is all your all interest, right? You only utter a mouthful of crap, and it sickens me because you're talking about my people. You're talking about the poor people. Those are the people you talking about, Mr. Man. What's wrong with you and the rest of you, right? My people, this is what you vote for. And this is what you get. And then they come back again. Vote for them again. You think you ain't get anything better? Say no more, Mr. Chairman. Back to
Thank,
you.
thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Uh, Greg, we're fairly close to closing time. I would like to afford you the opportunity to do the, the biggest part of the closing if you want to, and then I'll just chip in for a minute just to summarize tonight's objectives. Huh? Go ahead, sir. You.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
Mr. Weir will say, I want to say this to the people at home and abroad. Each and every country worldwide is run by the taxes their government collects. And Belize is no different. But when you have a government who is in denial and who has not taken care of its debt by not paying its teachers and its civil servants, the, the country cannot be stabilized because there is no money coming from these people who used to be doing all the purchasing. Teachers with a
Mm-hmm.
purchasing power that supported these young students that don't have. These young students, because of the teacher support, who spend their money in the little fresco shop and the little sweet shop that was situated around the school. This is how our country was thriving. But when you have a government who is giving away to foreign investors and you want to come back and raise taxes on your local people to try to make up, it cannot work and it will never work. I go to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Greg. Uh, Mr. Wade, you want to take a last couple of minutes, sir, and before I do my wrap up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
I'll be
Welcome.
short and brief,
Yes,
right?
sir. Right ahead, sir.
My people, this is electioneering they are doing right now. They did this the last time. This all this sweetness coming out of their mouth, and whatever coming out of their mouth, they not check themselves what they had already done to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they not check themselves what they have said the last time, right? But they come back with the sweetness to you listen to that just to a typical example, right? Are you going to fall for that? Now, when I come to you now and ask you for your support, and I tell you that I could do better than these crooks here and serve you better, you know what? Some of you will tell me, well, Mr. Wade, how much you pay me?
Mm-hmm.
Some of you will say that because that's what you used to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you are between a rock and a hard place now, right? In this next election, this is your last chance to save yourself and your country. You could mark my word because you just listen to them. It's just nothing better when I get. But there will be changes in that on that ballot box, a ballot on the next election. There will be changes in the ballot, right? Ballot paper. Up to you if you want that change. If not, you talk about Bukut. I don't know what we get this time. Back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. And thank you very much to Greg for both of your input in tonight's program and making it be a little better than it probably would have turned out to be. I'm sure for those who have been listening and who will be listening later on, they will find our comments, our commentary very insightful. And they'll find that we come with a passion because we believe in what we're saying. And we're not saying things just to sound eloquent or to try and put on a good show. What we're trying to
Farthest
do
thing from the
here,
truth.
what we're trying to do here on this platform and in other ways or methods is to get you, the Belizean people, to look after your own Belizean affairs. Uncle Sam not going to do it for you, especially with the difference in presidency that we now have compared to what's coming. If you think Belize is having a hard time right now, I would like to be alive in the next 365 days to come back and say so many times over and over, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. Why? Because you just don't listen. And worse than just not listening, you act like you don't give a damn. Everything is all right. You sit down and suck your finger, and somebody come by, see how they suck your finger, and want to feel sorry for you, and want to say, okay, well, give you $1 if you go buy my ramen. You want to turn around and tell that person, you don't want no dollar for him. You don't want no poor person. You don't have no misery. You don't have a problem. I'm saying what I've experienced, you know. I'm confessing what I've faced out here in Belize on this last trip and trips before. The only change is that it's getting worse and worse. And it will continue getting worse and even worse, because we, the Belizean people, just don't give a damn about nothing else other than just, you know, get on the internet, get on Facebook, and downgrade each other, or get on Pinterest, or get on YouTube, or get on TikTok, and laugh and giggle and enjoy the, you know, the merrymaking pastime stuff.
And make Briseno rich with the internet.
Yeah, basically. The man is getting money from all different kind of sources out the way. And like Mr. Wade said, we make the man richer. Well, not only just he one, all of them. They're all a lot better off today than they were when they first came into office on this particular cycle 4 years ago. Like I said, check their bank account, what they had 4 years before, and what they have now. And the laws that they made during this same cycle about enrichment, unexplained enrichment, none of those laws are going to be applied to them. And they all move their money around and spend it with who they want, when they want, and for where they want. Not in the Congress one cock and bull story about they decide how much central bank will allow you to spend out of your money or how much central bank will make available to you out of your money.
And Mr. Chairman, don't forget quickly. Mr. Chairman, don't forget quickly. They watch the leave $300-400 your loved one send for you because they only could send so much, right? They watch that too. And they're going to tell you, you know, you gone over your cap. You can't get no more, right?
Typically,
the poor
what
people.
happened to me, Mr. Wade?
Okay, don't forget that.
I came here to do my annual surveys and analysis and meeting people and stretching my hand out to a few hundred people and so. And when the resource where I bring run low and I decide to send for some more, they stop the money from reach my hand. So a lot of people couldn't get any help because the money got sent back. According to them, maybe I must have already got more than my share because I understand that it's $500 per month that people can now receive. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. Like the very same Deputy Prime Minister turned around and said, people can't live off at $30 a day. $40 a day, $50 a day. They can't pay for their house rent, pay for their food, and still maintain and picnic and themselves. And when I and many others like myself are trying to help out a few people here, there, and everywhere, then it's challenge for we abilities to be able to do that. Then they tell me unless I tell them where I want to spend my money upon, or who I want to give my money to, or where my money will go to, or how I got my money, or where I want to do with the money when I get it, unless I tell them that ahead of time, they don't authorize me to be able to gain access to my money because they block it off as they did a couple of times before. The Constitution says that they're not supposed to be doing any kind of onerous behavior and policies of state.
And Mr. Chairman, who are they doing that to? That's what I'm trying to say. Who are they doing that to?
Not to themselves, but the cronies that they have hired and paying.
That's my point.
Big salaries, because you have some of these people that they put on boards. Then they put on 2, 3, 4 boards, and then they collect money off of each of them board. Then they make more money, so then at the Prime Minister's salary. Half of them boards are in the pan. But the least small man where they need only help, then they shut up and for their ability to be able to get that help.
Amen. Amen to that.
I'll call that like my last commentary for the night because we have passed our time already.
Thank you.
And I'd just like to say I enjoy this particular show because it dealt with some down-to-earth issues that needed to be fleshed out. And I do appreciate you gentlemen having participated and contributed to making the program a little bit more lucid. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Mr. Wade. God bless.
Welcome, sir.
God bless Belizean and Belizeans at home and abroad. And that is the end of our program for tonight.
Thank you. With that said, I want to say good night to the people at home and abroad. And thank you for tuning